Hey, good people, this is your NI Dom back with another YouTube reflection. And this is a personal journal for contemplative people looking to think, grow, and have impact in the world. So, hey, I have bell hooks on the brain. She's a legend, a feminist educator, writer, activist who passed away, I believe, December 15th, 2021. And she's just been on me and done two reflections publicly, one on the podcast and then one on YouTube. And I still have more to say. So I'm here, and hopefully you're going to be here for it as well. In this particular installment of Bell Hooks, I'm thinking about feminism, but not necessarily, not fully feminism, but the embodiment, there it is, the embodiment of feminism in the day-to-day. So that's what's on my brain. And the embodiment of feminism. In this project, when I do my podcast, not on the YouTube, but I have a set of disclaimers that I do about 85% of the time. So it's about an hour reflection on the podcast, and when all goes well, between minute 10 and minute 15, I do a set of disclaimers. I say I use personality theory to help me to process my inner and outer worlds. The two that I use the most are Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram, pushing those two systems together. I identify as an INTJ 8. I also identify as being an African American woman from a lower socioeconomic background and from intergenerational trauma. I say something about being a trained and practicing educator for 30 years, blah, blah, blah. And then I have started saying fairly consistently in season 3, because I just finished season 3, I started saying I identify as a critical race feminist. And for me, what that means is a sensitivity to power as relating to social constructs, race, gender, class, and sexuality. What I don't say is that it's not just a sensitivity to power in those social constructs as an emotional sensitivity, but a sensitivity in terms of an intellectual understanding and action taking. And I've never explained that. I say I have a sensitivity to power, which is true, but it's not an emotional. And I'm not going to say there's no emotion to it. I'm not going to say that at all. But it doesn't live in the emotions. It lives in action. And that's what I think the embodiment of feminism is. Now, some black women will say a womanist. They don't say they're a feminist. They'll say they're a womanist. And I don't know if that's a term by Alice Walker, which is a type of feminism that respects race and the black family. And that that term and that definition just doesn't fully speak to me. I won't say it doesn't speak to me, but it doesn't fully speak to me as saying feminist. But I've always wrestled with, I know me being a feminist is not the same as a white woman being a feminist. We might overlap significantly, but there's a difference. So I've toyed with the idea of saying I'm a black feminist. I've toyed with that. But I have just found the term critical race feminist to be everything for me. I'm a critical race feminist. The critical means I locate power. That's a sensitivity to power. And I think the feminist part of me is about how that power shows up at the social constructs. Now, why do I say race and not critical? Why do I say, I don't know. I think because I'm very interested in critical race theory. And as much as I have debated this issue with other black women, I've debated this issue. I'm smiling because I think if they heard what I'm about to say, they would just laugh, so I'm laughing for them. That I see my gender as a woman inside of blackness. I don't like it, but I don't think that I have a choice in the matter. So maybe a better way to say it is that I believe the world sees me as black first, female second. But it's a very close second because I think the world very much responds to me, but not me as, and I think this is the point that the people who've debated with me in the past tried to make, and I just couldn't fully get it. They're not going to ever just talk about me being a woman. I'm always going to be a black woman. They may talk about me being black without saying I'm a black woman, but they are hardly going to talk about me being a woman without saying I'm a black woman. That black is there. It's just defaulted, just because of the way race is utilized in our society, in the matrix, as relating to social institutions. So I think that's why the race part is there for me, critical race feminist. But nonetheless, Bell Hooks does not use that term. I don't think I've heard her use it. Or my role model is Melissa Harris Perry, and that's how I am connected to Bell Hooks. Actually, I've never been a student of Bell Hooks in terms of her material. I'm a student of Melissa Harris, Dr. Professor Melissa Harris Perry. And because she is a lover of Bell Hooks' work, I've gotten to know Bell Hooks through Melissa Harris Perry. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm probably meditating on Bell Hooks a little longer. Because with her passing, there's a lot of her material, a lot of her quotes have surfaced. And I'm like, ooh, because I had not had that exposure to her work. So it's the fact that she's passed, that is sad. I know her well enough to be saddened by her passing, but not well enough that all of this content that is coming, her content that's coming up in celebration of her life, if you bring up something that Melissa Harris Perry has said, I got that already, because I probably have consumed almost everything that Melissa Harris Perry has produced, has put out in the world, but not Bell Hooks. So a lot of this material that's coming up where people are celebrating her life, her words, I'm like, whoa, damn, that's good. And so it has me in an extended state of meditation. And this part of her being a feminist, and as Melissa Harris Perry talked about, it's the work, like I was listening to something that Harris Perry said, like, what does it mean to be a good feminist? Because there's a lady who wrote this book called Bad Feminist. I wasn't really in love with the book, but the book motivated me all the same. For me, it helped me to own that I have a voice. I have a voice that I need to share with the world. I have a particular lens or a particular perspective to share with the world. And I can't think, her name is Roxane Gay. I think that's her name. I'm about 90% sure her name is Roxane Gay, and she wrote the book called The Bad Feminist. And I haven't finished the book, but I got at least half of the book finished. And I think the whole essence for me is like, what does it mean to be a good feminist? To live that out. Some women don't live it out daily, or I want to say rheticize it. They're rhetoricians of feminism. They'll retort. They'll speak out about feminism, but it's not in their actions. And I was listening to Melissa Harris Perry talking about, she was in a conversation where someone was saying, it's not just in how we show up at work, because that's one way to act out our feminism. Maybe in our romantic relationships, but even in our friendships. And I was like, dang, that's good. And it's me. And you guys have heard me talk about going through a shift in how I've done friendship, and I'm in the process of shifting how I do family. It's not the first shift I've done with family, but I think this is going to be the most meaningful and the most authentic shift. I just really think that this shift is really from a place of growth, maturity, of readiness. I'm actually looking forward to the shift that I'm about to do with the family. But all of it, all of the shifts are rooted in me living out a truth. Now, I can't say me living out feminism because feminism doesn't mean that to me. Like, I don't have a daily conviction to purport and promote the word feminism. I love it though. And you know why I've fallen in love with the word feminism? Because of how people have adversely reacted to it. I think that's why I like to say I'm a feminist, because I know so many people who don't like it, men and women. And so I love it, because to me, when I say I'm a feminist and I get a particular reaction, then in opposition or a negative reaction to my statements around feminism, their reaction allows me to have the real conversations I want to have about power. That's where my interest is at. Power, how it's located, how it's hoarded, how it's shared when it is shared, and how we fight for it, all of that. And people's reactions to feminism allow me to have the real conversation I want to have. So, I don't know, just thinking about Bell Hooks and her embodying feminism on a day-to-day basis, and that transcending not just her books, her talking about it, her writing about it. That's one level. Oh, I'm great. I feel the emotion there. That's one level of feminism, where it's a retort. It's rhetoric. Then the next level is when you start taking action. But where do you take that action? And in the previous reflection, I talked about having a heated exchange with my middle niece, who's 15 years old. And what I didn't get a chance to say, because I decided to not focus on her, that the real focus is on, it was for me. The real lesson is for me. It's not about her. It's about me and how I'm going to position myself with my family. But the one thing I do want to say is, there was something that she said, because I told her, I said, "You're being disrespectful." And her comeback was like, something to the effect of, "Don't I have a right to speak up for myself?" And I'm like, I'm going to come back and strengthen that, affirm it. You absolutely do. But in the spirit of what Bell Hooks says, you can't do justice without love. When you're speaking up for yourself in the absence of love, that means something different. And I believe the way my niece was speaking up for herself was in the absence of love. Now, in her defense, she may have felt that me talking was in the absence of love. And this is something that I've just been meditating on in the last couple of days. This whole idea of, particularly today, this idea of accountability. Like, when you profess something, when you profess a commitment to a thing, if there is no pathway for accountability, that professing is just rhetoric. That's all it is. Because when I profess something, I also have to leave the doors open for you to hold me accountable to the thing that I have professed. So, I want to be held accountable. If my niece came back to me and said, "You were speaking up in the absence of love," I want to be accountable. I want to talk about that thing. Let me learn more. Let me learn more about what love is for you. Let me learn more about how that didn't feel loving. Let me learn, and let's talk about how I can do better, because that's accountability. I'm not done. I got to go, though. YouTube only lets me do 15 minutes. I don't know. That's what I read somewhere, so I don't want to mess that up. So I'm going to come back and do a part 3, but for this particular reflection, I just want to talk about embodying feminism beyond the rhetoric. And it's an action, taking action, okay? If you want to know more about me, go to my website at yournidown.wordpress.com. I do have a primary podcast and a secondary podcast about this topic. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Until I come back, be well. Bye.